Indiana Fever coaching staff, to me, look like they're trying to sabotage Caitlin Clark or maybe mold her into the player that they want her to be. The Indiana Fever organization, to me, is looking like they're using Caitlin Clark for name, image, and likeness to somewhat build up their brand as a whole. But make a long story short, man, we all just got to wait till tonight. A lot has been said in these last 48 hours in regards to the motion offense, in regards to even Sophie Cunningham speaking out against her own coach, saying that, you know what, whatever offense.
Recent video footage has emerged showing a controversial play involving Caitlin Clark that has sparked intense debate about officiating standards and defensive tactics in women's professional basketball. The incident has generated significant discussion among fans and analysts regarding what constitutes legal defensive positioning versus problematic contact. The contested sequence shows Clark attempting to create separation during a drive, with critics claiming she illegally extended her forearm for advantage. However, detailed examination of the footage reveals a more complex situation involving questionable defensive positioning and potential rule violations by the opposing player.
Not against her own coach, saying that, you know what, whatever offense we was running before, we need not do that. We need to just give the ball to Caitlin. Caitlin's back. We need to somehow figure out a way to implement her back the best way they can. I believe expect to see Caitlin Clark with the ball in her hands tonight. If not, there's definitely something wrong. But let's head on over to X right now and pull up this situation, man, that these fans like to nitpick with. Millie stated, you got to be a sociopath to want this to be a push.
Multiple camera angles of the incident provide different perspectives on what actually occurred during the play. Social media analysis has intensified, with one observer noting that wanting to classify the contact as an offensive foul would require ignoring obvious defensive infractions. The ball handler appeared to be impeded by illegal contact before any separation attempt occurred. Close inspection of the sequence reveals concerning defensive tactics. The defender maintained excessive physical contact, including what appears to be a hand check and grip on the offensive player's arm. This type of sustained contact typically warrants a defensive foul call under current league standards.
Millie stated, you got to be a sociopath to want this to be a push-off. The ball handler, if she doesn't trip her with her right foot, she blows by her behind the back dribble because she fends off illegally the right arm with her left hand and creating space. Now, let's watch this play.
The most troubling aspect of the play involves the positioning of the defender's feet. Frame-by-frame analysis shows the defender extending her leg into Clark's path, creating an obstruction that caused the offensive player to lose balance and fall. This type of contact represents a clear safety concern, as it could easily result in serious lower body injuries. The presence of an official in close proximity to the action makes the lack of a foul call particularly noteworthy. The referee had a clear sightline to observe both the initial hand-checking and the subsequent leg contact that caused Clark to stumble. The failure to address either infraction has raised questions about officiating consistency and player safety priorities.
I think this is the play that Caitlin Clark fell. I believe she fell on this play. But look at this. This is not legal for her to be all up on her like that. Come on, bro. That ain't. Come on, guys. Somebody else said this is microism of what.
Basketball analysts have pointed out that the sequence demonstrates multiple defensive violations that should have been addressed before any debate about offensive fouls could occur. The initial hand check and bicep grip alone warranted a whistle, which would have prevented the dangerous situation that followed. The incident has reignited discussions about the league's approach to freedom of movement calls and player protection. Many observers argue that stricter enforcement of existing rules would prevent dangerous situations like this from developing. The failure to call the initial defensive foul allowed the play to escalate into a potentially injury-causing contact.
Somebody else said this is microism of what will eventually be the downfall of the W if they don't change their ways. Allowing this treatment of CC will continuation of prison ball, and new fans will leave. The fans is already starting to leave. The number of people insisting that she feel from her own push off and willfully ignoring tips. The right foot. Let me look at the right foot. Let's upload this up. Let's see, can we even see the right foot?
Some commentators have noted that similar defensive tactics in other professional leagues would result in immediate whistles. The disparity in officiating standards has become a point of contention, with suggestions that inconsistent enforcement creates an environment where aggressive defensive play crosses into dangerous territory. The controversy extends beyond this single play, as it represents broader concerns about how certain players are officiated differently. Critics argue that some athletes face more physical contact without receiving appropriate protection from officials, while others benefit from more favorable treatment.
Because they talking about her feet. Let's see this. Look, she's all over her, bro. Can't even see the feet. Oh, she put her feet down right there. So if you guys look real close, yeah. You guys see that left? What's that? Her right leg? You guys see that leg right there? She just
Video evidence clearly shows the defender's leg positioned in a way that created an unavoidable obstacle for the offensive player. This type of contact goes beyond typical basketball positioning and enters the realm of dangerous play that leagues typically address through rules enforcement. The timing of the incident has added to the controversy, as it occurred during a period when the player was returning from previous injury concerns. The potential for serious ankle or knee damage from this type of contact makes the non-call even more significant from a player's safety perspective.
You guys see that leg right there? She just didn't her leg, and Kayla Clark stepped on her leg. That's how she fell. But this is not a push off, bro. This is not a push off. Hold on. Here's another angle. Hold on. Let's see this angle right here. So if you look at her left leg,
league officials have not yet provided public commentary on the specific incident, but the footage has circulated widely enough to generate calls for review of officiating standards. The clear nature of the defensive violations shown in multiple camera angles makes this particular sequence difficult to defend as correct officiating. The situation highlights ongoing tensions between different approaches to basketball officiating. Traditional physical defensive play advocates argue for allowing more contact, while player safety proponents emphasize the need for consistent rule enforcement to prevent injuries. Fan reactions have been particularly intense, with many expressing frustration about what they perceive as inconsistent officiating standards. The visible nature of the violations in this specific play has made it a focal point for broader discussions about league officiating quality.
Her left leg, boom! Kayla Clark trips over her foot right there. Clear as day. Clear as day. Speed it up here. Look. Right there. She's tripping Caitlin, bro. Look at this. Look, watch this, guys. So let's bring it back. Look, you see her extending her body, extending her foot. She's tripping Caitlin.
The controversy occurs amid other organizational challenges facing the team, including questions about coaching decisions and player utilization. Some observers have suggested that these various issues create a pattern of concerning treatment that extends beyond officiating alone. Professional basketball relies heavily on consistent rule enforcement to maintain competitive balance and player safety. When obvious violations go uncalled, it can create an environment where dangerous play becomes normalized and player welfare is compromised. The incident serves as a case study in the importance of proper officiating training and consistent rule application. The clear sequence of events shown in the footage provides an opportunity for league officials to review and potentially improve their approach to similar situations.
Locker room issues. There are stylistic basketball issues in the locker room. And I stand by this. I still think there are people on this team that stand with DeWanna Bonner. I think there are people on this team that were pro DeWanna Bonner staying. And I think this just literally this is just a match made in hell. And by the way, it's a match made in hell for Stephanie White as well. Because Stephanie White's, literally, her reputation has just died. Her reputation is just gone.
Moving forward, the league faces pressure to address both the specific incident and the broader officiating concerns it represents. The safety implications of allowing such contact to continue without consequences extend beyond any individual player or team. The controversy surrounding this play reflects larger questions about the direction of professional women's basketball and the standards that will govern competition. Clear, consistent officiating serves as the foundation for fair competition and player safety at the highest levels of the sport. The current state of the Indiana Fever presents significant concerns regarding coaching philosophy and player development strategies. The organization appears to be experiencing fundamental disconnects between management approach and optimal player utilization.
Her reputation is just gone. Her reputation's gone to shit in no time. Like, it's been a match made in hell for her as well. Her reputation, she rebuilt her reputation with the Connecticut Sun after a horrendous stint at Vanderbilt. But that reputation's going again. But, like, obviously at practice, you're hearing from Sophie Cunningham mainly talking about Caitlin. And she kind of says the opposite almost to Stephanie White.
So I think we're all pros, so you just got to act like a pro, and that's part of being a pro.
How does Caitlin specifically, do you think?
Media availability sessions have revealed contradictory messaging from coaching staff and players, suggesting underlying tensions about team direction. These aren't personal conflicts between individuals, but rather strategic disagreements about...
That's part of being a pro.
How does Caitlin specifically, do you think, handle that?
I have no idea. You got to ask her. That girl's brain is different, so that's all on you. Hurt, and our offense was clicking, but now we have to have a new offense when she's in there because she just brings that much to the game, and so we have to adjust. And I think all of us just want it now. We know what the potential of this team can be, but we can't think about that. You really have to take day to day, and stuff that worked here, we need to carry it over to tomorrow's game. We have a lot of games coming up, and I think 7 days.
But literally, Sophie Cunningham coming out there.
The head coach's standing has declined significantly since taking over, despite previous success with other organizations. This represents a concerning pattern where proven coaching ability appears ineffective within the current organizational structure. Recent comments from Sophie Cunningham highlight the philosophical divide within the team. Cunningham noted that offensive systems function effectively without Clark, but require complete restructuring when she returns to the lineup. This perspective contrasts sharply with traditional basketball wisdom regarding superstar integration. The coaching staff's response to these challenges has been problematic. Rather than building systems around their most talented player, they've emphasized the difficulty of accommodation and the need for organic development through practice repetition.
I'm basically saying we need to... our offense is clicking without Caitlin, but we need to adjust because of what Caitlin brings. And then you've got Stephanie White here.
To see that through some of our games where it's, okay, now we knew exactly where our teammate was going to be. We knew exactly.
Where I want to see if I can get the actual clip of it here in a better volume.
The balance of trying to build continuity, but also realizing, I think Sophie said it, we don't have a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Comments about teammates knowing exactly where everyone would be and having each other's backs when certain players aren't present suggest concerning locker room dynamics. These statements imply that the team's best player creates uncertainty rather than opportunity. The approach mirrors scenarios where legendary coaches might struggle to integrate generational talents. Imagine elite coaches complaining about the challenges of incorporating players like Messi or comparing integration difficulties to managing role players rather than franchise cornerstones. This represents a fundamental misunderstanding of hierarchical team building. Organizations should construct systems that maximize their most valuable assets, not force exceptional talents into predetermined frameworks that diminish their effectiveness.
Bunch of games.
Yeah.
You do have to have that sense of urgency.
Yeah, there has to be a sense of urgency, but you also, it's not something that happens just because we want it to, right? It's got to be organic. It's got to be something that is built in practice when we're going through offense, when we're going through defense. Just because you say you want it doesn't mean that it happens. And I think you started to see that through some of our games where it's, okay, now we knew exactly where our teammate was going to be. We knew exactly that they had our back. We were able to play with.
We knew exactly that they had our back. That's a what?
The coaching philosophy appears focused on transforming Clark into a different type of player rather than optimizing existing strengths. This approach ignores her exceptional passing ability, court vision, and unique shooting range that creates spacing advantages for teammates. Clark's primary value lies in her ability to create scoring opportunities from extended range, forcing defensive adjustments that benefit the entire offensive system. Her passing skills and court awareness represent elite-level assets that should anchor team strategy rather than require accommodation. Current system implementation seems designed to minimize these strengths while emphasizing areas of comparative weakness. This approach contradicts basic player development principles and optimal team construction methodology.
That's a wild thing to say. That's a wild thing to say, Stephanie. That's a wild thing to say.
With multiple levels of intentional effort, and now when you reintegrate more players back into the lineup, it's trying to figure that out again. And there's no substitute for that other than reps together.
Sophie used the word pissed off to describe.
Like, we have to try figure it out again. Talking about we have to try figure it out.
The coaching staff's emphasis on making Clark more effective moving right, while valid for long-term development, shouldn't overshadow immediate system optimization. Teams should maximize current strengths while gradually addressing weaknesses, not sacrifice proven effectiveness for theoretical improvement. This situation resembles scenarios where coaches might ask specialists to abandon their expertise for unfamiliar roles. Elite players succeed because of distinctive skills, not in spite of them. The comparison to other elite athletes illustrates the problematic nature of this approach. Successful organizations build around their best players' natural abilities rather than forcing adaptation to existing systems. Clark's shooting ability differs from traditional catch-and-shoot players. Her value comes from creating shots off the dribble and extending defensive coverage through range, not from moving without the ball to predetermined spots.
We have to try figure it out. Could you imagine if Pep Guardiola said, you know, it's really hard. We have to try reintegrate Messi. Could you imagine if Phil Jackson came in being like, we have to try reintegrate, we're having to try reintegrate Luka into what we do. What Sophie Cunningham said is right. There is a thing about changing up how they play while Caitlin Clark is on the floor. But let's be real, it is the job of the team to adjust to the best player, not the opposite way.
Her passing represents perhaps her most valuable skill, allowing her to exploit the spacing created by her shooting threat. Current system implementation appears to minimize these opportunities in favor of predetermined ball movement patterns. The coaching staff's apparent goal of developing Clark into a more traditional off-ball player ignores her unique skill set and the advantages it provides. This approach might produce a competent role player, but eliminates the transcendent qualities that make her exceptional.
The job of the team to adjust to the best player, not the opposite way around. If you have a ball-dominant star who has given your franchise the most success, and by the way, if you want to say, oh, they won the Commissioner's Cup without her, they beat a Lynx team who couldn't make an open shot without her. They beat a Mystics team who are okay. They beat a Sky team who suck without her. And they beat the biggest win was against the Liberty, who, by the way, no John Quell, no Phoebish, but they.
Even optimistic projections of this development path suggest Clark might become an average defender and adequate off-ball shooter. This represents a significant limitation of potential compared to maximizing her natural point guard abilities and shot creation skills. The system's effectiveness with other players raises questions about overall philosophy. If established veterans appear less effective within current structures, the problem likely lies with implementation rather than personnel.